Racial abuse in football continues to be a troubling and widespread problem, affecting players at all levels of the game. The recent incident involving Calvin Bassey, who was targeted with racial abuse following an FA Cup match, highlights the ongoing challenges faced by players of color. Despite repeated condemnations from football clubs, governing bodies, and fans, the problem persists, revealing a systemic issue that extends far beyond isolated incidents. Bassey's experience is just one example in a long history of racial abuse within football, making it clear that more needs to be done to address and eradicate this deeply rooted problem. Football, being one of the most popular sports in the world, should ideally represent unity, equality, and teamwork. However, racial discrimination has plagued the game for decades. From fans hurling racial slurs at players to social media abuse targeting athletes for their skin color, the issue continues to tarnish the sport's reputation. While football associations and clubs have introduced various anti-racism initiatives, the reality remains that players of color still face immense challenges when stepping onto the pitch. A deep-rooted problem in football. Racial abuse in football is not confined to a single match, league, or country. It is a global issue that has affected players across generations. Calvin Bassey's ordeal is another painful reminder of how racism is still very much alive in the sport. Similar incidents have occurred in major leagues such as the English Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, and international competitions. In recent years, reports from organizations such as Kick It Out have shown alarming increases in racism-related complaints in football. The rise of social media has further amplified the problem, with players frequently being targeted by online trolls who hide behind anonymous profiles. The anonymity of the internet allows individuals to spew hatred without facing real consequences, making it an increasingly difficult problem to control. Many prominent players have spoken out against racism, sharing their personal experiences and calling for stronger actions to be taken. However, despite their efforts and the increasing awareness around the issue, instances of racial abuse continue to occur. This raises serious concerns about whether current anti-racism measures are effective enough in deterring offenders. The impact on players and the football community. Racial abuse not only affects the players being targeted, but also has a broader impact on the football community as a whole. Players who are victims of racial discrimination often experience psychological distress, which can affect their performance on the field. Many have had to develop mental resilience to cope with the hate, but the emotional toll of constantly facing discrimination can be overwhelming. Beyond the individual level, racism in football damages the sport's reputation and discourages young players of color from pursuing careers in professional football. When aspiring athletes see their idols being abused simply because of their skin color, it sends a discouraging message that racism is an accepted reality in the game. This can prevent talented individuals from entering the sport or continuing their careers, ultimately affecting football's growth and diversity. Clubs, fans, and players who stand against racism also feel the negative impact. Supporters who advocate for inclusivity often find themselves fighting against a toxic culture that continues to breed discrimination. This division within the football community weakens the unity that the sport is meant to foster. The role of clubs and organizations. Football clubs and governing bodies have a significant role to play in combating racial abuse. While many organizations have made statements condemning racism, words alone are not enough. Stronger actions must be taken to ensure that offenders face real consequences for their actions. Some clubs have implemented bans on fans who engage in racist behavior, preventing them from attending future matches. However, enforcement remains a challenge, as racism often finds its way into football through social media and private conversations. Clubs must work closely with law enforcement agencies and social media platforms to track down and hold offenders accountable. Another crucial aspect is education. Racism is often fueled by ignorance and deeply ingrained societal prejudices. football organizations should invest in educational programs that target both fans and players, promoting awareness about the impact of racism and the importance of inclusivity. Schools, academies, and youth football programs can also play a role by incorporating anti-racism discussions into their training and development programs. Solidarity among players and clubs. One of the most encouraging responses to racial abuse in football has been the solidarity shown by players and clubs in support of victims. When Calvin Bassey faced racial abuse, his club Fulham publicly condemned the actions of those responsible. This kind of support is crucial in making players feel valued and protected. Many players have also taken it upon themselves to speak out against racism, using their platforms to raise awareness and push for change. From posting on social media to taking a knee before matches, these gestures send a strong message that racism has no place in football. While these symbolic acts are important, they must be accompanied by real changes in policy and enforcement to make a lasting impact. Clubs must continue to stand by their players and implement strategies that foster an inclusive environment. This includes providing support for players who have been targeted, such as access to mental health resources, legal assistance, and a platform to share their experiences without fear of backlash. The need for stronger policies and actions. Despite numerous campaigns and initiatives, racism in football remains a persistent issue, proving that current measures are not enough. More needs to be done to ensure that racism is not just condemned, but actively eradicated from the sport. One of the most effective ways to tackle racism is through stricter penalties. Football associations should enforce harsher punishments for individuals found guilty of racial abuse, including lifetime bans from stadiums and legal consequences. Social media companies should also be held accountable for failing to control racist abuse on their platforms, requiring them to implement stronger moderation and reporting systems. In addition, football leagues should collaborate with governments and human rights organizations to create policies that address racism more comprehensively. This includes working with law enforcement to ensure that those engaging in racial abuse face legal consequences, rather than just being banned from football-related activities. Grassroots football also plays a key role in shaping future generations. By instilling values of equality and respect at an early stage, young players can grow up in an environment where discrimination is not tolerated. Schools, academies, and community football programs should incorporate anti-racism education as part of their training, ensuring that future players understand the importance of inclusivity. The path forward. The battle against racial abuse in football is far from over, but there is hope for change if the right steps are taken. It requires a united effort from players, clubs, governing bodies, fans, and even governments to create an environment where everyone, regardless of their background, can enjoy the sport without fear of discrimination. Football has the power to bring people together, transcending cultural and racial boundaries. However, this can only happen if racism is effectively addressed and eliminated from the game. Through stronger policies, harsher penalties, better education, and collective action, the sport can move toward a future where every player is judged solely by their talent and not by the color of their skin. Calvin Bassey's experience, along with those of countless other players, should serve as a wake-up call. Football must evolve beyond mere statements and gestures. It must take decisive action against racism to protect the integrity of the game and the dignity of its players. Only then can football truly claim to be a sport for all.